Ambassador Elena Vasquez adjusted her formal robes for the third time as she walked through the crystal corridors of Nexus Prime. The smooth walls reflected her image back in fragments, each piece showing her human features among the elegant alien architecture. She had learned to walk with the gliding steps that the Zephyrians preferred, keeping her movements slow and controlled. The Confederation Council Chamber rose before her like a cathedral made of living light. Inside, representatives from dozens of species sat in their designated areas. The Zephyrians floated in crystalline formations that sang with harmonic frequencies. The Voldorians rested in their water-filled spheres, their tentacles weaving complex patterns of communication. The Gyrathi stood in perfect geometric arrangements, their insect-like bodies clicking in synchronized rhythms. And then there was the human section, a simple raised platform with basic chairs, positioned near the back where junior members belonged. Elena took her seat and activated her translation implant. Immediately, the chamber filled with voices discussing matters of galactic importance. Trade disputes between the rim worlds, scientific exchanges with the core systems, cultural preservation efforts for emerging species. The human delegation requests permission to address the council, Elena said when the formal recognition period began. High Counselor Velther, a Zephyrian whose crystal body pulsed with ancient authority, acknowledged her with a musical tone. The junior member may speak. Elena stood, feeling the weight of 1,000 alien gazes. Honorable counselors, humanity wishes to contribute more significantly to Confederation defense efforts. Our colonies have experienced increased raids from hostile forces. We request permission to upgrade our defensive capabilities. A ripple of crystalline laughter echoed from the Zephyrian section. Velther's form dimmed slightly. Young species, you have made remarkable progress in adopting civilized standards. Your violent past is well documented, but we celebrate your growth toward enlightenment. The current defensive measures are adequate for a species of your development level. Commander Zix of the Voldorians extended a tentacle that glowed with soft bioluminescence. The human military uses energy dampeners and sonic pacifiers, as is proper for junior species. These weapons cause no permanent harm and encourage diplomatic resolution of conflicts. With respect, Elena replied, choosing her words carefully. The raiders do not seem interested in diplomatic resolution. They attack our colonies and take prisoners. Our current weapons cannot stop them effectively. The beings you call raiders are simply following their nature, interrupted Hive Speaker Krath of the Gyrathi. All species must consume to survive. Your role is to understand their needs and find accommodation. Elena felt her jaw clench but forced herself to remain calm. They killed 300 people on Kepler Station last month. A regrettable learning experience, Velther chimed. But growth requires sacrifice. Your species will become wiser through these trials. The session continued for another 2 hours. Elena presented casualty reports, survivor testimonies, and tactical analyses. The council listened with polite attention and offered suggestions for cultural exchange programs, meditation techniques, and improved communication protocols. When the session ended, Elena walked slowly back to the human embassy. The building was small and functional, nothing like the soaring spires and flowing organic structures that housed the other delegations. Inside, she found General Marcus Chun waiting in her office. Chun was a compact man with graying hair and steady eyes that had seen too much. He wore the dress uniform of the Human Defense Corps, decorated with ribbons that meant nothing to alien observers. The weapons at his side were ceremonial energy dampeners, beautiful and useless. How did it go? He asked. Elena collapsed into her chair. The same as always. They smiled and nodded and told us to try understanding our enemies better. How are things on the frontier? Chum pulled out a datapad and set it on her desk. New Dalton was hit yesterday. The Devourers took everything they could carry and burned the rest. 40,000 people dead or missing. Our forces arrived 6 hours too late. When we did engage, our weapons barely scratched their ship hulls. They used some kind of biometal that absorbs energy. The dampeners and pacifiers just made pretty light shows. Elena stared at the casualty report. Names and numbers that represented families destroyed while the galaxy's most civilized species debated proper protocol. What do our people want to do? Chen was quiet for a long moment. You know what they want to do? Every defense commander from here to the Outer Rim is sending the same message. Let us use real weapons. Let us fight back properly. The Confederation will never approve kinetic weapons for humans. They think we're barely civilized as it is. Maybe they're right. Chun stood and walked to the window that overlooked the alien city. We've spent 50 years proving we can be as refined and cultured as any species in the galaxy. We learned their arts, adopted their philosophies, followed their rules. And where has it gotten us? It got us membership in the greatest civilization in galactic history. It got us the privilege of watching our people die while we asked permission to defend them. Elena joined him at the window. Below them, alien citizens moved through their perfect city, safe behind massive defensive networks that could reduce any hostile fleet to atoms. The same technology that humans were forbidden to develop. You know what Admiral Harrison said in his last report? Chun continued. He said the old weapons are still there. Still maintained. Still ready. 50 years of peace hasn't made us forget how to fight. It's just made us pretend we don't know how. Marcus, you can't be serious. If we violated Confederation military protocols, they would expel us. We would lose everything we've worked for. Would we? Or would we just stop pretending to be something we're not? A soft chime indicated an incoming priority message. Elena activated her communication console, and the face of Prime Minister Sarah Chun appeared. She was Marcus's sister, but where he was a soldier, she was a diplomat through and through. Elena, I've just received word about New Dalton. The Confederation Council needs to be informed immediately. I'll request an emergency session. No. Sarah's expression was grim. I'll be traveling to Nexus Prime myself. This situation requires direct intervention from Earth's leadership. After the connection ended, Elena and Marcus stood in silence. Through the window, they watched alien children playing in parks protected by weapons that could sterilize planets. Human children on the frontier had no such protection. Change is coming, Marcus said quietly. I can feel it. Elena nodded. 50 years of careful diplomacy and cultural adaptation had earned humanity respect and acceptance. But respect and acceptance meant nothing when your people were dying and the civilized. Galaxy told you to smile and understand. You killers better. I hope we're ready for whatever comes next, she whispered Dot in the distance. The crystal spires of Nexus Prime sang their ancient songs of peace and enlightenment. While somewhere among the stars, human colonies burned under alien skies. The warning alarms started screaming at 0347 hours. Galactic Standard Time. General Marcus Chun was in his command center on the orbital station above Harvest Moon when the sensors detected the incoming fleet. 37 ships, massive and organic-looking, dropping out of hyperspace at the system's edge. Sir, we're reading Devourer biosignatures, reported Lieutenant Kim from the sensor station. Confirmed hostile approach vector. Chun studied the tactical display. Harvest Moon turned slowly below them, its golden fields and blue oceans home to 300,000 human colonists. Farmers, teachers, children. Families who had come here to build something peaceful and beautiful. The planet had no significant defenses beyond Chun's small patrol fleet and the orbital platforms equipped with standard Confederation weapons. How long until they reach the planet? Chun asked. At current speed, 18 hours, sir. Chun activated the emergency communication array. Priority transmission to Confederation Command. This is General Chun requesting immediate authorization for enhanced defensive measures. Hostile force approaching human colony world Harvest Moon. Request permission to deploy kinetic weapons and military-grade defensive systems. The response came 40 minutes later. A Zephyrian official appeared on the screen, his crystalline form pulsing with bureaucratic authority. General Chun, your request has been received and will be reviewed by the appropriate committee. Please maintain current defensive posture and attempt diplomatic contact with the approaching vessels. Sir, these are Devourers. They don't respond to diplomatic contact. They only communicate through violence. All sentient life can be reasoned with, General. The Confederation maintains strict protocols regarding weapons deployment. Please be patient while we process your request. Chun stared at the screen for a full 10 seconds before responding. How long will the committee review take? Standard processing time is 72 hours for military. Authorization requests. The hostile fleet will reach this planet in less than 18 hours. Then, I suggest you use those hours to establish meaningful dialogue with the approaching vessels. The transmission ended. Chun turned to his staff, seeing his own frustration reflected in their faces. Commander Walsh, his tactical officer, spoke first. Sir, we have the old missile batteries in Storage Bay 7. We could have them online in 6 hours. Confederation sensors will detect any unauthorized weapons activation, Chun replied. We'd lose our membership and face military intervention. But sir, those people down there. I know, Commander. I know. For the next 16 hours, Chun watched the Devourer fleet approach while sending increasingly desperate requests to Confederation Command. Each response was the same: patience, proper procedure, committee review. The committee would convene when all members could attend. 2 members were in meditation cycles. 1 was attending a cultural festival. The review would happen when it happened. The Devourers reached Harvest Moon's orbital space at 1947 hours. Chun's fleet moved to intercept 12 human ships armed with energy dampeners, sonic pacifiers, and electromagnetic pulse generators. Weapons designed to disable and discourage, not destroy. All ships, this is General Chun. Engage the enemy. Protect the planet. The battle was a joke. The Devourer bioships absorbed the energy weapons like they were feeding on them. The sonic pacifiers had no effect on creatures that lived in the vacuum of space. The electromagnetic pulses were simply ignored by organic technology that had no traditional electronics. Chun watched his flagship's main guns fire burst after burst of coherent energy into the side of a Devourer vessel. The biometal hull glowed briefly, then returned to its normal sickly green color. The creature ship didn't even slow down. The Devourers landed on Harvest Moon in waves. Their bioships deployed smaller craft that moved like giant insects across the planet's surface. Chen's ground forces fought bravely with their approved weapons, but energy dampeners and sonic pacifiers couldn't stop creatures that thrived on pain and violence. The first distress calls came from New Sacramento, the planet's largest city. They're not taking prisoners, reported Colonel Martinez from the planet's surface. There. Oh God, sir, they're eating people. The ships, they have processing facilities. They're turning people into... The transmission cut off. Chun tried everything. He sent another emergency request to Confederation Command, only to be told the committee was still reviewing his case. He attempted to contact nearby Confederation fleets, but none were authorized to intervene without proper documentation. He even tried to buy weapons from passing traders, but Confederation law forbade selling military equipment to unauthorized forces. Hour by hour, the reports came in. Settlement after settlement going dark. Harvest Moon's population centers being systematically consumed. The Devourers weren't interested in conquest or resources. They were harvesting human beings like crops. 20-6 hours after the attack began, Chun received permission to observe the main Devourer processing ship through his flagship's long-range sensors. What he saw would haunt him for the rest of his life. The bioship had landed in the center of New Sacramento. Its organic hull had opened like a flower, revealing chambers filled with machinery that was part technology, part living tissue. Human beings were being herded into these chambers in long lines. Children, elderly, families still holding hands. Chun watched through his sensors as 80,000 people entered those chambers. He watched as the biomachinery processed them, breaking down their organic matter into nutrients for the Devourer fleet. He watched as an entire human city became food for monsters, while his approved weapons fired harmlessly at their hulls. "Sir," Lieutenant Kim said quietly, "Confederation Command is requesting a status report." Chun stared at the tactical display showing the empty crater where New Sacramento used to be. The Devourer ships were already lifting off, their hunger satisfied. His own fleet hung uselessly in space, their weapons having accomplished nothing except providing a light show. Chun opened the channel to Earth Command. When Admiral Harrison's face appeared on the screen, Chun saw his own exhaustion and rage reflected in the older man's eyes. "Report, General. Harvest Moon has fallen, sir. Total casualties. Approximately 80,000 dead. The Devourers processed the entire population of New Sacramento. We were unable to stop them with approved weapons." "And Confederation response?" Chun felt something break inside his chest. "The committee is still reviewing our request for authorization to use military-grade weapons. They said the review process cannot be rushed, and that we should have tried harder to establish diplomatic contact." Harrison was silent for a long moment. "They ate them, didn't they, Marcus?" "Yes, sir. They ate them all, and our stun weapons couldn't even scratch their hulls. The Confederation says it was regrettable, but necessary to follow protocol." "I see." Harrison's expression hardened. "Return to Earth, General. Immediately." "Sir, there are other colonies that might be attacked. We should maintain patrol, Marcus." Harrison's voice carried 50 years of military command. "Return to Earth, now, and bring every ship you have. All of them." The transmission ended. Chun looked around his bridge at officers who had trained their entire careers to protect human life, only to watch helplessly as their people were murdered by creatures that laughed at their civilized weapons. "You heard the Admiral," Chun said. "All ships return to Earth, maximum speed." As his fleet turned away from Harvest Moon, Chun took one last look at the planet that had been humanity's showcase agricultural world. Smoke still rose from the crater where New Sacramento had stood. The Devourer fleet was already disappearing into hyperspace, satisfied with their meal behind them. They left a message written in the ashes of human civilization. "Your politeness will not protect you." Chun closed his eyes and tried to forget the sight of children being processed like grain. But the image burned in his mind as his ships jumped to hyperspace, carrying news that would change everything. The age of human patience was about to end. The celebration was in full swing when the news arrived. The Great Assembly Hall in Geneva glowed with soft lights and alien decorations, marking the 50th anniversary of humanity's acceptance into the Confederation. Prime Minister Sarah Chun stood at the main podium, surrounded by dignitaries from a dozen worlds who had come to honor humanity's remarkable transformation. 50 years ago, Sarah said to the assembled crowd, humanity took its first steps toward true civilization. We learned to put aside our violent instincts and embrace the enlightened path shown to us by our Confederation partners. High Counselor Velther floated nearby, his crystalline form singing harmonious notes of approval. Commander Zix gestured elegantly with bioluminescent tentacles, while Hive Speaker Kroth maintained perfect ceremonial stillness. They had come to Earth to celebrate humanity's successful integration into galactic society. Sarah continued her speech, listing humanity's achievements in art, science, and peaceful expansion. Human colonies now stretched across 40 star systems, all operating under Confederation guidelines. Human military forces had not fired a lethal shot in anger for 3 decades. Humanity had truly become civilized. The message arrived during the presentation of the Cultural Achievement Award. Sarah's aide, a young diplomat named Torres, approached the podium with careful steps. His face was pale as he handed her a secure communication pad. Sarah glanced at the screen and felt the blood drain from her face. Urgent. Eyes only from Admiral Harrison. Earth Command 2. Prime Minister Chun. Subject. Harvest Moon status. Harvest Moon colony destroyed. 80,000 confirmed dead. Total system loss. Request immediate emergency session. Critical decisions required. Sarah looked up from the pad to see hundreds of faces watching her expectantly. Human faces filled with pride at their species' progress. Alien faces radiating benevolent approval for humanity's growth. Everyone waiting for her to continue celebrating 50 years of peace. Ladies and gentlemen, Sarah said, her voice steady despite the earthquake happening inside her chest. I'm afraid we must pause the ceremony. An urgent matter requires my immediate attention. Velther chimed with concern. Prime Minister Chun, is there some difficulty we might assist with? Sarah looked at the crystal being who had spent 5 decades teaching humanity to be more civilized, more understanding, more willing to see all perspectives. No, High Counselor. This is something humanity must handle alone. She left the stage with Taurus following close behind. In the secure communication room, she activated the emergency connection to Earth Command. Admiral Harrison's face appeared on screen, and Sarah saw decades of military discipline barely containing raw fury. Sarah, we need to talk, now. Marcus already briefed me. 80,000 people? Processed alive while our ships watched helplessly. The Confederation denied our weapons request until after the slaughter was complete. Sarah closed her eyes. How bad was it? Children, Sarah, families. They fed them into biological processing machines while Marcus's fleet fired stun bolts that wouldn't hurt a fly. The Confederation Committee was too busy debating proper procedure to authorize effective weapons. What do you recommend? Harrison leaned forward, and Sarah saw something in his eyes she had never seen before. I recommend we stop pretending. Explain. For 50 years, we've played their game. We learned their art, adopted their philosophy, followed their rules. We mothballed our weapons and trained our soldiers to fight with toys. We did everything they asked to prove we deserve membership in their enlightened civilization. And it worked. We're respected members of the Confederation. Respected? Harrison's voice cracked. Sarah, they let 80,000 of our people die rather than interrupt a committee meeting. They told Marcus to try diplomatic contact with creatures that literally eat sapient beings. That's not respect. That's contempt disguised as guidance. Sarah stared at the wall where images of human colonies hung in neat rows. Peaceful worlds where families had built homes under alien skies, trusting that their government could protect them. What are you proposing? Full military activation. Recall all colonial fleets. Reactivate the mothballed weapon systems. And tell the Confederation exactly what we think of their enlightened civilization. That would mean expulsion from the Confederation. Economic sanctions. Military intervention. By who? The same committee that took 3 days to approve using flashlights against the Devourers? Sarah walked to the window overlooking Lake Geneva. Outside, Alien delegates were probably discussing humanity's sudden departure from the ceremony, making polite inquiries about whether the humans needed guidance in handling their crisis. The weapons are really still there? Every railgun, every missile battery, every kinetic platform we ever built, hidden in storage facilities across the solar system, maintained by volunteers who never forgot what we really are. And what are we really, Admiral? Harrison was quiet for a moment. We're the species that fought its way from caves to space stations. We're the species that survived ice ages and plagues and wars that would have ended lesser civilizations. We're apex predators who learn to cooperate, not sheep who learn to be civilized. Sarah made her decision. Call an emergency session. Full cabinet, all military commanders, colonial governors. We meet in 2 hours. And the celebration? Tell them the party is over. 2 hours later, Earth's leadership gathered in the Crisis Management Center beneath Geneva. Sarah looked around the table at faces she had worked with for years. Secretary of Defense Williams, Colonial Administrator Park, Intelligence Director Murphy, and Admiral Harrison. These were people who had spent their careers building humanity's peaceful reputation. You've all read the Harvest Moon reports, Sarah began. 80,000 dead while our forces watched helplessly. The Confederation Committee is still reviewing whether we should be allowed to use military-grade weapons to defend our own people. The political ramifications of military escalation would be severe, warned Director Murphy. Trade sanctions, diplomatic isolation, possible intervention by Confederation fleets. The ramifications of continuing current policy include more dead colonies, Admiral Harrison replied. How many more Harvest Moons are acceptable? Secretary Williams pulled up a tactical display. Our current defense capabilities are adequate against most threats. The Devourers are an exceptional case. No, Sarah said firmly. The Devourers are reality. Everything else is pretense. She stood and activated the main display, showing reports from the frontier. 17 human colonies have been attacked in the past year. Casualty rates are increasing. Our approved weapons are completely ineffective against biometal hulls. Meanwhile, the Confederation debates whether we're civilized enough to protect ourselves properly. What do you recommend? Asked Administrator Park. Sarah looked around the room at leaders who had guided humanity's peaceful expansion for decades. I recommend we stop asking permission to defend our people. The vote was unanimous. An hour later, Sarah stood before the Global Communication Network, wearing the simple black dress uniform of Earth's government. Behind her, Admiral Harrison and the other military commanders wore their oldest uniforms, the ones from before humanity learned to be civilized. People of Earth and the human colonies, Sarah began. Today we learned that 80,000 of our fellow humans died on Harvest Moon while our forces were denied permission to use effective weapons in their defense. She paused, letting that sink in. The Confederation Council, in their wisdom, decided that proper procedure was more important than human lives. They told our soldiers to try diplomacy with creatures that literally consume sapient beings. The camera pulled back to show the entire government leadership standing together. After 50 years of following Confederation protocols, after 5 decades of proving our commitment to enlightened civilization, we have learned a hard truth. Predators do not respect weakness, no matter how civilized that weakness appears. Sarah stepped closer to the camera. Therefore, effective immediately, Earth announces, we're done being cultured. The declaration continued. Humanity withdraws from all Confederation military protocols. We will defend ourselves with whatever means necessary. To our allies among the stars, you are welcome to stand with us. To our enemies, you are about to remember why predators fear humans. To the Confederation Council, your failure to protect our people has released us from any obligation to protect yours. The transmission went out simultaneously to every human world, and every Confederation communication hub. Within minutes, responses began flooding in. High Counselor Velsa's crystalline form appeared on screen, singing notes of deep concern. Prime Minister Chun, surely this is grief speaking. Humanity has come so far from its violent past. Let us discuss more civilized solutions. Sarah looked at the being who had spent 50 years teaching humanity to be better, kinder, more understanding. High Counselor, discussion time is over. You had 50 years to talk. Now, we act. But Prime Minister, what about diplomatic protocols? What about proper procedure? Sarah's final words before cutting the transmission were delivered with perfect calm. Proper procedure got 80,000 of my people killed. Your enlightened civilization failed to protect them, so now we'll protect ourselves. General Marcus Chen stood on the bridge of the HN's Retribution, watching as massive cargo containers docked with his flagship. For 50 years, these containers had been listed as cultural preservation storage in official records. The Confederation inspectors who occasionally visited found them filled with human artifacts, artwork, and historical displays. They never looked deep enough to find the hidden compartments. Sir, the new weapons are coming online, reported Commander Walsh. Her voice carried excitement that Chun hadn't heard since their academy days. Railgun batteries are at 90%. Nuclear torpedo tubes are loaded and armed. Kinetic bombardment systems are spinning up. Chen nodded, studying the tactical display that now showed capabilities the Confederation had never imagined. His small patrol fleet had been quietly replaced by something that would have made his ancestors proud. Destroyers bristling with mass drivers. Cruisers carrying antimatter warheads. Battleships equipped with relativistic weapons that could crack planets. Any response from the Confederation fleet stationed at Kepler Station? Chun asked. They're maintaining distance and requesting we explain our weapons upgrade, sir. Admiral Zix seems confused about how we acquired military-grade equipment so quickly. Chun almost smiled. Tell the Admiral that we've always had these weapons. We just decided to stop hiding them. The true shock wasn't that humanity had rearmed. The shock was how they had rearmed. 50 years of appearing to focus on culture and diplomacy had been a perfect cover for the most advanced military development program in galactic history. While alien species stagnated with energy weapons that had remained unchanged for millennia, human engineers had quietly pushed the boundaries of physics. Sir, we're receiving targeting data from Earth Command, Lieutenant Kim reported. Intelligence has tracked 3 Devour fleets to the Outer Rim. They're moving toward the human colony at New Victoria. Chun felt his jaw tighten. New Victoria was home to his younger brother's family. 2 million people who believed their military could protect them. People who had no idea that their protectors had been fighting with toys for 50 years. How long until the Devourers reach New Victoria? 16 hours, sir. And how long until we reach them? At maximum acceleration with the new drive systems. 8 hours, sir. Chun looked around his bridge at officers who had spent their careers following Confederation protocols. All ships, this is Admiral Chun. We have new orders and new capabilities. Today we find out what human military technology can actually do. The fleet jumped to hyperspace using drives that bent space-time in ways that made Confederation physicists weep. They covered distances in hours that should have taken days. Powered by reactors that converted matter directly into energy with 98% efficiency. They dropped out of hyperspace directly in front of the Devour fleet. The enemy bioships immediately moved to attack formation, their living hulls pulsing with anticipation. These were the creatures that had fed on New Sacramento, that had processed 80,000 humans like cattle. They remembered the taste of human terror and expected another easy meal. They had never faced human weapons that were designed to kill. All ships, weapons free, Chun commanded. Show them what we really are. The HNS Retribution's main railgun fired first. The tungsten slug, accelerated to 12% of light speed, hit the lead Devourer ship center mass. The biometal hull that had laughed off energy weapons simply ceased to exist. The ship broke apart in an expanding cloud of organic debris that sparkled in the system star. "Direct hit," reported Walsh, her voice filled with wonder. "Target destroyed." Around them, the human fleet opened fire with weapons that had been hidden for 50 years. Nuclear-tipped missiles that turned bioships into miniature suns. Particle beams that cooked Devourer crews in their own shells. Mass drivers that punched holes straight through vessels the size of city blocks. The battle lasted 17 minutes. When it ended, 37 Devourer ships had been reduced to scattered atoms and cooling plasma. Not a single human vessel had taken damage. "Sir," Kim said quietly, "we're receiving a transmission from the Devourer command ship. They're trying to surrender." Chun looked at the tactical display showing the wreckage of the fleet that had terrorized human colonies for decades. "Tell them we don't take prisoners." The final Devourer ship died under concentrated fire from 6 human destroyers. "Sir, Admiral Zix is requesting immediate communication," Walsh reported. The Voldorian commander appeared on screen, his tentacles writhing with agitation. "Admiral Chun, what have you done?" "The Confederation has strict protocols regarding total destruction of enemy forces." "Admiral Zix, these creatures murdered 80,000 of my people. They processed children into nutrients." "What protocols cover that?" "All sentient life deserves the opportunity for rehabilitation and understanding." Chun cut the transmission. "Sir, new orders from Earth Command," Kim announced. "We're to locate and destroy all Devourer breeding worlds. Complete extinction protocol authorized." The next phase shocked the galaxy even more than the weapons. Human intelligence networks, supposedly focused on cultural exchange and diplomatic research, revealed detailed maps of Devourer breeding grounds scattered across the Rim territories. Information that had been gathered by smiling human diplomats and friendly cultural attaches over 5 decades. Human fleets moved with surgical precision against targets that most species didn't know existed. The Devourer's secret nursery worlds, where young were raised in vast biopools, became funeral pyres visible from neighboring star systems. Their mobile breeding platforms, disguised as asteroid miners, exploded one by one as human ships materialized from hyperspace, with targeting solutions already locked in. "This is madness," transmitted High Counselor Velther from Nexus Prime. "The humans are conducting a campaign of genocide. Intervention is required." The Zephyrian peacekeeping fleet moved to intercept human forces in the Deneb sector. 40 crystal ships that had maintained galactic peace for 3,000 years. Armed with energy weapons that could sterilize continents, they met the human Third Fleet commanded by Admiral Santos. The crystal ship's energy beams struck human hull armor and simply scattered. The new composite materials, developed in secret laboratories beneath Luna's surface, absorbed and dispersed energy attacks that should have vaporized metal. The human response was overwhelming. Kinetic rounds designed specifically for crystalline targets shattered Zephyrian ships like glass ornaments. The ancient peacekeepers, who had never faced weapons designed to kill rather than disable, found their supposedly indestructible hulls reduced to glittering dust clouds. High Counselor Velther himself died when his flagship was hit by a relativistic projectile that converted his crystalline form into exotic particles. "By the deep currents," whispered Admiral Zix, watching the destruction from his command ship. "How long have they been planning this?" The answer came from intercepted human communications. 50 years. Every cultural exchange had been reconnaissance. Every diplomatic mission had gathered intelligence. Every peaceful gesture had masked the most comprehensive military preparation in galactic history. The Kyrathi swarm attempted to restore order by deploying their drone fleets. 1,000,000 mechanical insects, controlled by hive mind intelligence, descended on human positions in the Vega system. The drones had conquered dozens of civilizations, overwhelming enemy defenses through sheer numbers. Human cyber warfare specialists had been waiting for this opportunity for decades. The virus spread through the swarm network in microseconds. Suddenly, 1,000,000 Kyrathi drones turned on their own command ships, following new programming that overrode their original instructions. Hive Speaker Kroth watched in horror as his own weapons dismantled his fleets from within. Impossible. He clicked in mechanical anguish. Our encryption is quantum locked. No primitive species should be able to break our security. Primitive? Came the human response on an open channel. We've been listening to your communications for 30 years. We know every encryption key, every command protocol, every weakness in your systems. You taught us how to be civilized. We taught ourselves how to be effective. Within 6 months, the devourer species was extinct. Their breeding worlds were sterile rocks. Their fleets were debris fields. Their survivors, if any existed, were scattered and leaderless. But the real shock to the galaxy came from the revelation of human capabilities. Energy shields that made ships nearly invulnerable. Weapons that could destroy planets. AI systems that could hack any network. Manufacturing capacity that could build fleets faster than they could be destroyed. How is this possible? Demanded Counselor Dex of the Rim Alliance. Human technology was supposed to be centuries behind ours. Admiral Harrison's response was broadcast to every world in the Confederation. We never stopped innovating. We just stopped showing you what we could do. For 50 years, you've seen what we wanted you to see. Now you're seeing what we really are. The galaxy had assumed that humanity's violent past made them primitive. They had celebrated humanity's adoption of civilized behavior as evidence of growth and wisdom. They never considered that apparent civilization might be camouflage for the most dangerous predator species in known space. The Confederation delegation approached Earth with the caution of prey animals entering a predator's territory. Their ships, once symbols of galactic authority, now looked fragile and outdated compared to the orbital defense platforms that surrounded humanity's homeworld. Ambassador Velinara, the new Zephyrian representative, had replaced High Counselor Volthor after his crystalline remains were scattered across the Deneb sector. She studied the sensor readings with growing alarm. How many weapons platforms are we detecting? Over 3,000 confirmed, Ambassador, replied her aide. Energy signatures suggest each one could destroy a capital ship with a single shot. Admiral Zix, now commanding the remnants of the Valdorian fleet, observed the defenses through the viewport of his diplomatic vessel. They turned their home system into a fortress. How long have these installations been here? According to our archives, the platforms were built over the past 50 years, reported Captain Morris, their human escort pilot. We told everyone they were scientific research stations and communication arrays. Zix's tentacles coiled with nervous energy. Everything you told us was a lie. Morris shrugged. We told you what you wanted to hear. You wanted to believe we were harmless, so we let you believe it. The delegation was directed to Luna Station, a facility that had supposedly been devoted to cultural studies for 5 decades. As their shuttles docked, they discovered that the cultural center was actually a military command complex larger than most. Confederation Shipyards. Prime Minister Sarah Chen met them in a conference room lined with displays showing human military assets across the galaxy. She wore the same simple black uniform she had worn during the Declaration, but now it carried the authority of absolute power. Welcome to Earth, Sarah said as the alien delegates took their seats. I understand you wish to discuss terms. Former Admiral Zix spoke first, his bioluminescent patterns dim with defeat. Prime Minister Chen, the Confederation wishes to establish new protocols for peaceful coexistence. Surely we can find a diplomatic solution to recent tensions. Tensions? Sarah looked at displays showing the wreckage of 3 Confederation fleets. Admiral, you attempted military intervention against human forces defending their own people. That wasn't tension. That was war. And you lost. Hive Speaker Kyle, representing what remained of the Karithi hierarchy, clicked nervously. The Confederation acknowledges that mistakes were made. We propose returning to previous diplomatic frameworks with some modifications. No. Sarah's voice carried the finality of a closing door. There will be no modifications to failed systems. There will be new reality. She activated a holographic display showing human-controlled space. A sphere of influence that now encompassed 47 star systems and growing. Humanity establishes an independent defense zone around all human worlds. Any non-human vessel entering this zone without explicit permission will be destroyed without warning. Any species that preys on humans will be hunted to extinction. These are not negotiable points. Ambassador Velanara chimed with crystalline distress. Prime Minister, this violates every principle of galactic civilization. Surely the enlightened path of cooperation. The enlightened path got 80,000 of my people killed, Sarah interrupted. Your principles failed when we needed them most. Our principles are simpler. We protect our own. But what about trade? Cultural exchange? Scientific cooperation? Available by application and inspection. But the days of unlimited access to human space are over. Admiral Zix leaned forward. And if the Confederation cannot accept these terms? Sarah smiled, and the expression held no warmth. Admiral, look around you. Look at the defense platforms outside. Look at what happened to your fleets when they tried to stop us. The Confederation can accept our terms, or it can continue learning why that's a bad idea. The negotiations, if they could be called that, lasted exactly 1 hour. There were no compromises, no mutual concessions, no diplomatic face-saving measures. Humanity presented terms, and the galaxy accepted them or faced consequences that had already been demonstrated. Later, Sarah stood in her private office overlooking the lunar surface where massive railgun batteries tracked across the sky. Admiral Harrison joined her, both of them watching the alien delegation prepare for departure. Think they'll honor the agreement? Harrison asked. They'll test the boundaries. Some species will try to find loopholes. Others will probe for weakness. Sarah turned from the window. But they've seen what happens when they underestimate us. The galaxy won't trust us anymore. Good. Trust is for equals. Fear is for predators and prey. Let them decide which one they are. 6 months later, General Marcus Chun stood in a memorial garden on Harvest Moon. The planet had been transformed from an agricultural world into humanity's primary, military academy. Where New Sacramento once stood, a crystalline monument rose into the sky. Inscribed with 80,000 names. The epitaph was simple. Here lies diplomacy. It died defending those who believed in it. Chun was no longer just a general. He now commanded the Human Defense Corps, responsible for protecting 47 worlds and growing. His uniform bore new insignia, symbols of authority backed by weapons that could sterilize star systems. Sir, reported Colonel Martinez, now his chief of staff, we have 3 applications for passage through the defense zone today. A Centauran research vessel, a Terran trading convoy, and a Voldorian cultural mission. What does intelligence say about them? The research vessel checks out. The trading convoy is legitimate. The Voldorian mission. Martinez paused. They're requesting permission to study human military tactics for their own defense planning. Chun almost laughed. Approved. Let them learn. Maybe next time they won't need us to save them from their own bad decisions. Above them, orbital patrol ships moved in precise formations, their hulls bearing the new insignia of the Human Defense Corps. These weren't the ceremonial, energy dampener-equipped vessels of the old era. These were weapons of war built to kill efficiently and without remorse. General, Martinez continued, we're also receiving reports from the frontier. 2 species have formally requested human protection from raids by the Skulltaker clans. Response? Standard terms. They provide intelligence and staging areas. We provide absolute protection. No negotiations with hostiles, no mercy for predators. Chun nodded. The galaxy was learning that human protection came with human rules. Species that wanted safety could have it, but they would live under the umbrella of human military doctrine. No more committee meetings while people died. No more diplomatic solutions for creatures that understood only violence. Sir, there's one more thing. Martinez activated a tactical display showing the galactic map. Intelligence reports that 17 species have begun developing kinetic weapons programs. They're abandoning energy-based warfare in favor of projectile systems. Chum studied the display. The influence of human military doctrine was spreading like ripples across the galaxy. Species that had relied on civilized warfare for millennia were suddenly remembering how to build weapons that could actually kill their enemies. The Confederation Council's response? Public condemnation of the return to primitive warfare, private acceleration of their own weapons programs. And the predator species? Going extinct or going into hiding. The flesh renders surrendered last week after we glassed their homeworld. The Soul Eaters have retreated beyond the rim. Word is spreading that humans don't take prisoners when it comes to species that prey on sapiens. Chun looked again at the memorial, at the names of people who had died because their protectors were too civilized to protect them effectively. Good. Let the galaxy learn that there are consequences for treating sapient beings as food. As the sun set over Harvest Moon, Chun reviewed the daily reports. Human colonies were expanding at record rates, protected by fleets that could respond to any threat within hours. The defense zone was growing as more species requested human protection. And across the galaxy, predator species were discovering that the age of easy prey was over. The transformation was complete. 50 years of careful diplomacy and cultural adaptation had been revealed as the most successful military deception in galactic history. Humanity had spent half a century convincing the galaxy they were harmless, all while building the most advanced military force in known space. Sir, Martinez said, incoming transmission from Earth Command. They're asking about the next expansion of the defense zone. Tell them to prepare for another 20 systems, Chun replied. There are still too many places where predators think they can act with impunity. And if the Confederation objects? Chun looked at the orbital platforms that now surrounded every human world, at the fleets that could appear anywhere in the galaxy within days, at the weapon systems that had made civilized warfare obsolete. Then they can object quietly, or they can join the Extinct Species Museum. The stars above Harvest Moon sparkled with the lights of human ships on patrol, carrying a simple message to any who might threaten human space. The age of asking permission was over. The age of enforced peace had begun. And in the darkness between stars, predator species that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia learned to fear the sound of human engines and the sight of human weapons.